Yo, what is going on YouTube? I am Germ here. We've been doing a lot of these kind of breakdown style videos, breaking down the different rosters and moves and stuff that happened in the offseason and getting ready for the 2021 Professional League of Legends season. And today we're going to be doing another one of those. We're going to be talking about TSM's 2021 roster, more specifically their mid lane situation. As we can see on the screen, we're going to be talking about Bjergsen. This video might be a little more controversial. This one might be a little more crazy, but we're going to be talking about, is TSM better off without Bjergsen, better off without their longtime captain, better off with the runner-up for the MVP in the summer split of 2020 in the LCS. I know it's a crazy proposition, but I think some of the numbers and some of the opinions and some of the actual just kind of debates out there and arguments might surprise you a little bit. But before we get into that, I just want to mention real quick a word from our sponsor of today's video, which is Draft Buff. This is a fantasy esports website and app where you can build a fantasy team of the best players in esports. I've already done a couple of drafts with Draft Buff, and the application is so clean and smooth. It's so easy. Everything works really smoothly. It's really awesome, and it makes me really excited to play fantasy League of Legends esports getting ready for the 2021 season. I mean, it's super cool to see all the different rosters, teams, all the new players on their new teams, and getting ready, because I've always been a fan of fantasy sports, and I obviously love League of Legends esports and LoL esports in general. So getting to combine the two things is awesome, and Draft Buff is the best package to consume that type of stuff, in my opinion. If you do get signed up, make sure you use code IAMGERM. I would appreciate it a ton, and Draft Buff would as well. Special thank you to them for sponsoring this one. But again, today we're talking about the TSM mid lane. Bjergsen is out. He is the new head coach, and now Powerofevil is the guy. And again, losing Bjergsen in any offseason is going to be crazy. He's one of the best Western League of Legends players of all time. For sure, in my opinion, the best North American League of Legends player of all time. But, I mean, there is a case for, like, Doublelift. Maybe some people even say X-Smithy. Maybe there's some new guys on the come-up. But, again, Bjergsen has been amazing as far as the branding for TSM, the fan base, bringing popularity to League of Legends in general and the LCS in general, but also on the Rift, he's been amazing. MVPs, LCS titles, Worlds performances. Obviously, they haven't been super great internationally, but they've made it to MSI a bunch. They made it to Worlds a bunch. They won IEM Katowice. They made it out of groups at Worlds just one time, but they made it to a couple of tiebreakers. They were always a very good team. They were always a huge brand, fan base, all that stuff, and it was always centered around Bjergsen. He played on so many different rosters, so many different teams, and that was a good thing and a bad thing, because again, with Bjergsen, they went through a lot of ups and downs. There was even a few years where they didn't make it to Worlds, but there was obviously years where they won just LCS title after title after title, and he was there for it all. But then again, there are also people that say Bjergsen is the one constant with TSM. With TSM constantly being unable to make it to Worlds and get anything done, that this is the man that was always there. This was always the man in mid lane, even though they constantly were rebuilding around him. And he always had stellar performances. They do think he kind of lacked in some ways as far as maybe aggressiveness or adapting to different metas or just being able to carry a team on the world stage. Because again, being good in the LCS and being good internationally is two different things. And if TSM wants to take that step up, maybe it's time to change things up. And man, Powerofevil, I think, is one of the most criminally underrated players really in the world. I think this guy is really slept on, because there is an argument to be made that he is perhaps the best mid laner in the LCS. Now, obviously, with Perks coming in, that might complicate things a little bit different. Obviously, many people expect Perks to come in and be very dominant. But in my opinion, Powerofevil can very easily be a better mid laner than Jensen, and there was even an argument to be made the last couple of years that Powerofevil was better than Bjergsen. And even if you don't think Powerofevil is better than Bjergsen, which I necessarily don't, okay, I am a big Bjergsen fan. The name I Am Germ is actually one of Bjergsen's solo queue accounts back in the day, or maybe even still has it, was called I Am Bjerg. That's how I came up with this name. That's how I was doing this. I have a Bjergsen jersey. I've been a TSM fan for like 6 or 7 years now, and it's mostly been because of following Bjergsen. Like, I'm not like some Bjergsen hater or something, but when you look at the gameplay, when you look at the stats, when you watch the games, Powerofevil is a very quality mid laner. He is right up there with the best of the best. And there's a reason that for a while the meme was that Powerofevil is Bjergsen's kryptonite. It's because this guy can really play, and he has that thing where in a big game, in a big moment, in the big stage, he seems to rise to occasion, where maybe Bjergsen and TSM, they have had this history of constantly getting to that big game, constantly getting to that tiebreaker, constantly having a good enough team to be in position to make it out of groups at Worlds, to do great at Worlds, whatever, but always falling a little bit short. And Power of Evil has been a guy who, for whatever reason, he has always been able to rise to the occasion in those tiebreakers, in those matchups against TSM, whether it be at Worlds or just wherever. He's always found a way. Not always. I think their career record is close to like 50-50. But there for a while, it seemed like he was always just knocking Bjergsen out of things, winning the big matchup against him, constantly being a pain in TSM's side. And yeah, he has a knack for rising to the occasion. I know we're thinking back to like Misfits in 2017 Worlds, where Power of Evil and Ignar almost knocked out SKT. Like, that Misfits team had no business taking that SKT team to Game 5 and almost knocking them out of Worlds. And yes, Power of Evil has been a big player, a consistent player, and he's really been getting better and better year over year. If you watch his gameplay, if you look at his stats. So again, losing Bjergsen in offseason was going to be crazy, but if there was any guy to replace him, I was so excited to hear that Power of Evil was the guy. And again, even if you don't think Power of Evil is better than Bjergsen, which I don't necessarily, he could be a better fit for TSM, or he could just be exactly what TSM needs to maybe get over the hump, to maybe start having some better international performances. I don't know if this is necessarily the year, because Lost is coming in as a young, unexperienced guy who's going to kind of have to grow into his own in the LCS. And Huni is kind of a question mark in the top lane, but Power of Evil could for sure be a part of TSM's future, where maybe 1, 2, 3 years from now, they are a good enough team, they have made the right moves, they have picked up enough big pieces and developed the right players to where they are maybe getting something done at Worlds, and that is very, very exciting. That makes the future so bright. So again, even though Bjergsen has been this amazing player for TSM for so long, and has been the face of the franchise, branding, huge fan base, huge fanfare, all of that, there is definitely a case to be made that Power of Evil can not only successfully replace him in terms of just filling those shoes, but maybe even exceeding what Bjergsen was able to do in his time. And for the longest time, Bjergsen has been known as like this kind of just really great mind for League of Legends, a great leader. He's always communicating, he's talking a lot in game, but also out of game. He likes to kind of be like the head of the team and always talking to players and talking with everyone and kind of building relationships with people and trying to figure out how they can do things best. And that's always been like that coaching style inside of him. But having to dedicate so much time to solo queue, learning matchups, learning, working on his own game and stuff, but then also trying to do that stuff on the side was very, very challenging, and maybe took away that the coaching stuff definitely took away from his gameplay a little bit, but the gameplay stuff also took away from his coaching a little bit. And now that he's able to just focus on one thing, I think that will be good. And people are worried about Bjergsen's coaching because they're saying, again, this is the guy who has kind of been the leader for TSM last couple of years when they have had gameplay issues, when they haven't been able to find the right style, when they haven't been able to get over the hump. So how is that going to be different that now he's the coach? And I think it could be different in a couple ways. I think one, it's easier to like for different people, they are able to tell people what needs to be done and they can understand what needs to be done. But some people have a difficulty actually doing it. And Bjergsen obviously has been a pro for so long. He has gained tendencies and playstyle things from so many different metas that maybe what is ingrained in his mechanics and muscle memory and everything isn't exactly what you need to succeed in League of Legends in 2021, perhaps. But as a coach where he's able to study the best of the best, constantly learn the best playstyles, maybe he can communicate to others better than he was able to do himself how to be able to do some of those things. Because we've seen people be better coaches than they were players. That happens all the time. Every once in a while, a guy who wasn't even that good of a player ends up being an amazing coach. So there's definitely that potential for Bjergsen there. So I think that really, really could work out good for TSM, and that could bear well for Power of Evil as well, getting to learn under Bjergsen, getting to learn some things from him, and I think they're going to have an amazing working relationship, and I think it's going to work out great. When we take a look at some of the stats, because you guys know I like to do this, I love this website, this goal.gg, we take a look at the World Championship in 2020, where we saw both Power of Evil and Bjergsen taking part in that. We see Power of Evil was towards the top in KDA, which is always a good sign. Bjergsen towards the bottom. Obviously, TSM went 0-6. KDA has a lot to do with win-losses. That's going to be tough. In terms of gold per minute, we see Power of Evil was the second best mid laner at the tournament. Now, he only played 6 games. Some other people played up to 19 games. So, there's something you have to little asterisk by that, but Bjergsen was towards the bottom, again, 0-6, hard to generate gold, but damage per minute, Power of Evil, again, towards the top, Bjergsen, again, towards the bottom. In terms of laning stats, I don't know if you guys can even see this stuff, but we can sort it by gold differential at 15, Power of Evil number 1 at Worlds, Bjergsen towards the bottom. CSD, Power of Evil number 2, Bjergsen towards the bottom. XP differential, Power of Evil 4th, Bjergsen towards the bottom. And when you look at some of the different other events that they both attended, this is kind of what the history will tell you. We look at LCS Summer in 2020. Yes, Bjergsen had an amazing split. He was a runner-up for MVP. Some people think he should have won MVP. There's definitely a case to be made. But when you look at it again, gold per minute, Powerovevil's number 1. Damage per minute, Powerovevil's number 2, only behind Insanity. Obviously, all these stats need to be taken with a grain of salt. So much of it is dependent on team playstyle, your playstyle, champion pick. Like, just because Insanity did the number 1 damage per minute, I don't think Insanity is the best mid laner. And I'm not saying Powerovevil's the best just because he has a high DPM, but I'm just saying he is a very, very consistent high damage AD carry where he is doing very, very similar DPM numbers to Insanity with double the KDA. So when you kind of put all the stats together, maybe these things start to hold a little bit of weight, where again you see Bjergsen is just very middle of the pack, even though he was a huge playmaker for TSM, which is a big reason. And then in terms of laning stats, again, we have Powerofevil. He is ahead of Bjergsen only by a little bit. CSD, Powerofevil is ahead of him. XP differential, Powerofevil is ahead of him as well. Now, again, these are just stats. There is the eye test. There is a lot that goes into gameplay. But when you constantly look at all the different places they have both taken part in, you have the Summer LCS of 2019 where you see some of the same stuff. LCS Summer 2018 where you see some of the same stuff. And then actually at Worlds in 2017, this is where Bjergsen actually did kind of outshine Powerofevil in some ways. But again, this was like 3 years ago, almost 4 years ago at this point, a much younger Powerofevil. He has grown so much. He's continuing to get better and better. And when you look at these numbers from the Worlds in 2017, this is with Misfits, I believe, you can see how much Powerofevil has been able to develop and grow, because this was obviously a good showing for him. He kind of burst on the scene internationally to a lot of people, and he's just been able to get better and better. His stats are looking better and better every single year. He's a consistent, high damage, high KDA, always coming out of lanes with leads, and again, in the past, he's probably played on a little bit better teams than Bjergsen as well. And again, him getting to play on a better team now, hopefully, should make him shine a little bit more. FlyQuest was not a bad team at all last year, but Powerofevil really did shine. I think it does have a little bit to do with the fact that Powerofevil played on FlyQuest, who has a little bit of a smaller fan base, is not exciting of a team and stuff too, where if Powerofevil had his last season on TSM, I think he would have been like an MVP candidate. I think he would have been in those discussions more. Now that he's going to be on such a popular team and under a microscope more often, people are going to be watching him more often, I think people are really going to be surprised and impressed, surprised in a good way with Powerofevil in 2021. And in the end, I don't know for sure that Powerofevil is an upgrade over Bjergsen, but I think the potential is there, and that's not me shitting on Bjergsen, even, in the slightest way. That is just saying that Powerofevil is also great, and he is great in a different way, and it might be exactly what TSM needs. Because again, we saw Bjergsen for the last 7 years. It didn't work out for whatever reason, whether it's all his fault or not. And just when you consistently keep seeing the same things happening, maybe it's time for a change. And I think in the end, this really could work out for the better. Again, if you're going to lose Bjergsen, I'm so happy to have Powerofevil. But that is pretty much it for this video today, guys. Definitely drop a like if you enjoyed it. Leave a comment down below. What do you think about this situation? Do you think Powerofevil is going to be amazing in 2021 and be able to replace Bjergsen pretty well, or even, just completely pass him up? Or do you think Powerofevil is not going to be good and we're going to be missing Bjergsen and hoping he jumps back into the mid lane in 2021? I would love to hear your guys' thoughts and opinions. Subscribe to update on my latest content. Drop a like on this video if you enjoyed it. It helps me a ton out in the YouTube algorithm. Helps out my content a bunch. Remember to check out Draft Buff code IamGerm. Hopefully catch you guys in the next one. But until then, peace!